where Hatteberg's people picks up the slack. He still has every car he ever owned, and when he first got married, his wife had to make friends with a boa constrictor. Well, since then, Professor Richard Wall of Tabor College in Hillsboro has been quietly teaching the rest of us the art of giving of himself for the betterment of the community.
I enjoy learning. I love to learn. In fact, that's probably why I'm in the business I am.
Richard Wall is one of those men you don't forget. Born of this time, yet not of this time, his life is not his own. He belongs to the community, his college, his church, his students.
Well, I've been called a workaholic, and that's probably right. I enjoy working. I always have some projects going.
He is referred to affectionately as Mr. Tabor, involved yet typically Mennonite in his quiet way of shunning the limelight, instead letting his actions speak for him.
Oh, boy, I have lots of dreams, I guess.
As a biology professor, he's one of the prime forces around Tabor's new science building.
This building will be a real dream come true.
Adding his work to make the Tabor Science Building a reality, he doesn't let others build his dream. The professor and other volunteers use their sweat to help carve the future.
I don't know. I'm a real doer, I guess. I really like to get involved.
And nowhere does this show more than in the restoration project known as the Jacob Friesen Mill.
I understand that the first year or two, the people that planted Turkey Red had twice the yield.
A man like Richard Wall is always moving, making, exploring his mind and others. And this restored mill is evidence.
But all the wood is custom sawed. It's all full length, full dimensions, you know. It's all white oak. And that was the wood of choice all over the world for building windmills.
Torn down in 1910, Wall used a few old photographs, calculated the dimensions, and reconstructed Jacob Friesen's mill.
Pure satisfaction, that's the only reason. And I don't know why. There was just a great satisfaction when you can save something that's ready to be scrapped or thrown away and make it work just like it was when it was new. We have a real relic here, I think, that not very many people get to work on, reconstructing a Dutch windmill.
Not everyone is Richard Wall. He's at home with an old windmill.
You just roll the thing up like this.
He's at home in his biology lab.
I particularly like the dragonflies and the damselflies.
And he's at home in a town he thought he'd never come back to, but he did. And he's glad he stayed at this small college in the middle of the plains. For him, small is good.
At what point do you say, big enough? Let's not grow anymore, because the mentality seems to be in a lot of places, we just grow bigger.
Bigger is not good for Richard Wall because it is the intimacy of the town and the relationship he's developed with the community that makes him stand out. He is involved, blurring the lines between the school and the town, in some ways back like it used to be in another time.
Some people have said I was born 50 years too late. I would have operated a lot better maybe 100 years ago even, but maybe so, I don't know.
It is people, not things, who make a community rich. And for Richard Wall, his wealth is knowledge, his time is his money, and he spreads it unselfishly in a community that quietly remains a symbol of Mennonite heritage. Richard Wall, Susan, this is a man who really lives his faith there.
He does, and he's a darn good builder of mills, too.
He is, and he does a whole lot of other things that we could spend a whole half hour talking about.
Yeah, well, I'm glad
Very involved.
Glad he's around.
Me too.
Just ahead in sports, a local athlete makes a mark at the World Track Championships.
While Terry Allen is making his mark in Lawrence. Jeff Feinfort is next with sports. Particularly this one named Streepy. Now, he gained fame when he wrote a book about the owl's unusual behavior and shed new light on the research into these birds. And then there is Dr. Richard Wall, also in the biology department, and is known in Hillsboro as Mr. Tabor. He involves himself totally in his work and the community, and is known for his unselfish giving spirit. Now, the two worked together on campus and recently found that they had something unusual, an aging serpent. So tonight, two former Hatteberg's people and an old snake. They fascinate us, tantalize us, scare us, and may be one of the most misunderstood creatures on Earth. They are the snakes.
I think the other thing, too, whenever you have a balance of fear and attraction, you tend to get a strong emotion.
There's a little college called Tabor on the prairie's edge. Quiet, except for the noise it makes on a national level. This snake is making the college famous among biologists and scientists.
First thing a lot of kids always ask is, well, how long do they live? Well, we really don't know. A lot of reptiles, particularly, we just haven't kept records. What records are kept are kind of just informal.
On a college campus, you think of old buildings, but not usually of old snakes. At Tabor, it's the old snake that garners the headline.
People are surprised when they live 30 years or so, and maybe we shouldn't be.
Maybe not. This diamondback rattler, captured 25 years ago by biologist Richard Wall, is now believed to be the oldest snake of its kind in captivity. Biologist Richard Wall and Max Terman checked with the San Diego Zoo for the record, and this Tabor snake now holds it.
It's fairly evident now, at least just from other people I've talked to, that snakes will live a lot longer if they don't overeat. And so we typically don't feed them during the winter, so they go 5 to 6 months without eating. During the summer, then we feed them pretty well. And I'm convinced that's probably why.
That's the reason we keep snakes here. Very visible. You can get up close, watch them, see that eye movement, see a very complex behavior. I think humans developed with a fear of snakes because they had to avoid them to stay alive.
Now, this isn't the first record-setting snake Tabor is famous for. Meet Methuselah, a now stuffed and mounted prairie rattler who lived at Tabor for nearly 30 years.
Hopefully, by having our snakes so visible, the more you get to know them, the more you get to like them.
At least that's the purpose. Now, as far as a record goes, they know it's an old snake, but there are no exact records kept on nationally, either among the zoos or among the colleges. So they know it's a real old snake. There may be another older snake in captivity, but they think this one's probably a little over 30 years old, actually, because it was caught when it's an adult. And that's an old snake, any way you look at it.
Okay, but don't feed it a lot, or else
it
might not live very much longer.
That's right, especially in the winter.
Homeowners aren't the only ones who get creative with their holiday decorations.
And